Hello and welcome to The Christmas Show, which is episode 177 of the Phil Swallow podcast, broadcasting on Monday the 16th of December 2024. And I will be recording this here now and trimming it down a bit to get rid of all the waffle. And it'll also go onto the audio version, which will be uploaded in due course. So, without further ado, what have I covered? Well, firstly, I'm going to do a shout out to Crystal Palace. I occasionally mention Crystal Palace Football Club on this podcast. I'm a season ticket holder. They had a brilliant win at the rivals at Brighton yesterday. Things are really doing well, turning the corner there, hopefully. So I'm off to Arsenal on Wednesday night in the Cup game, along with another 6,000 odd. So that'd be great fun. I just wanted to formally record my my praise for them as a fan. And I've not done a huge amount on the video front this month. I suppose some of the Christmas prep, the inevitable Christmas prep, has started. What I have done is a lot of research, and I'll talk about some of that in a bit. And I've also done a short for the Wisley Glow event at the RHS Wisley near Woking in Surrey. That was really good. It seems to be there's a growth in these events year on year now, where they put some amazing arrangements of LED lights and a bit of sound and a bit of fire and all that sort of stuff. Really well put together. So we enjoyed that one. We just got the good weather before the storm came in last week. So that was really good. Put that out as a short. YouTube shorts used to be a maximum of a minute. They're now up to 3 minutes. And mine was a bit longer, about 2.5 minutes. And what I don't quite understand is the way they're calculating views, because I had 2 days ago it said there were 700 plus views. A day ago it said 600, and today it said 500. So I'm expected to be 400 views tomorrow. I don't know why. I just don't know, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. Although, how about mentioning some stats? I think I indicated that I was going to do this. So I do look at the stats, obviously, for who's viewing what. It can guide you to what you may want to do more of on future videos. But I thought I'd actually do a kind of a year's review. So I'm only picking 3 figures. So the first is the number of views of videos that have taken place this year. And that is 103,720 on my channel. And that's up 49% from the previous year period, which is great. The watch hours, so this is public hours watched of my videos. And they're 9,686, and that's up 107%. Also brilliant, and I'm absolutely delighted with that. And the subscribers are currently 1,697 subscribers. Easy for me to say, and that's up 84% on the year. So all in all, very, very good. And again, thank you guys for supporting what I do by viewing the videos and engaging. And the engagement is really huge. Something we also talked about when I was chatting on Marq English's channel last night. He did a sort of impromptu live. So that was good. Other things that have been happening. So I inherited... some time ago, inherited a box of papers and maps on Sanderstead. That's a bit... I'm doing this in a mirror, so it's difficult to... It makes no sense when you... Anyway, it's just a hat. I'm probably gonna get annoyed by it and take it off later. It's still not right, is it? Right, that's better. Anyway, hi Carol, evening to you. So yes, anyway, where was I? Papers. So. Paper is important because typically old records are in paper, and for some of these they were things where they'd been just downloaded from the internet, and I think I talked about it in the last show. But I decided to actually make some sense of them, so I went through and put some sort of organisation together. I mean, there's one folder of parish meetings of All Saints Parish Church Committee going back into the 1800s. Now, personally, I'm not going to read through all of them. There may be some stuff in there that might be of interest, but I'm probably going to hand those over to the archives, maybe the Bourne Society guys or perhaps Croydon. But there are some others that are of some interest to me. So again, they may ultimately end up in the archives, but there's some scanning and copying and things like that I'm going to do. And then just a couple of weeks ago, I was offered some more papers on Sanderstead, which I accepted with good grace. And in one of those, I did put a little picture on the community tab. There was a truncheon from Sanderstead Police Station which had Sanderstead stamped on it, which is brilliant. And there's been some more papers there relating to Benjamin Beeson, a guy whose story I've told both in talks and in video on here, and recently met with his grandson. Jeff, you're always late, mate. No, you're not. Thank you very much for joining. Appreciate you coming on board. So, so Sanderstead is something that was richly documented by Joy Gadsby, historian and author, and Joy's no longer with us, but I feel that I'm going to pay respect in how I manage the information I'm given, and some of it will find its way into videos. I've talked many times about wanting to do some more work on Sanderstead Court, the former manor house in Sanderstead, next to the church and laying back a bit. You actually see the entrance of it opposite Church Way, the entrance to the original Sanderstead Court building. That's all that you can really see now. And it's just one of those stories. When I first started doing this properly in 2021, it really fascinated me. There's lots of information, lots of map images, some aerial images. There was a slightly odd story about how it ended its life when it got burnt down towards, getting towards the end of the war. It wasn't. It was in the first half of 1944, where we hadn't even had D-Day at that point. And I'm going to go to the National Archives at Kew because there's something I want to kind of see for my own eyes before I believe it. But I've got an angle there that I found also about some of the activities that were going on there, resettlement of prisoners of war, and trying to see if they're up for officer selection and the like. So I'm going to put that together at some point, hopefully 2025. And again, with all of these things, and it's partly, why do you do this, Phil? Well, because I've always been interested in local history, always been interested in the research, but I felt, what's the point in doing it unless you can put it out there somewhere? And sometimes that might be an article in a magazine, or I'm doing the Sanderstead magazines for the next while, certainly. But I feel that putting them into a video and a talk kind of thing is the best way that I can tell the stories and use the information that I found. So Sanderstead papers, really good. One of the other things that I've also done some work on in the last couple of weeks is kind of a revisit to family history. And the trigger for that was Lee Mack, the comedian. Now, I'm not connected to Lee Mack, the comedian, but we've been watching some of the old Who Do You Think You Are programmes on BBC iPlayer. And one relating to Lee Mack, he was looking up the story of his great-grandfather, I believe it was, who served in France in World War One. They did some very clever storytelling, I suppose. Went to one of the battle sites and they had an iPad that showed the map of the battle sites and their location, and they were kind of walking today across a field that would have been trenches and battleground and all that sort of stuff. And it made me think about my great-grandfather, Reginald Hugo Marshall Woodhouse, who died aged 28 in the Battle of the Somme, 15th of September 1916. And it's a story that is reasonably well documented in terms of Forces War records, but I want to learn more about it and to find out and display more from what I can find about his story. So I've requested some sort of certificates and information. I may even have some other family related information here in folders and files. But one thing which I found which was really quite amazing, so he served in the London Regiment. It was 23rd Company, I believe, of the London Regiment in World War One. Now, regiments are often forming, reforming, combining and the like. And that regiment that he served in the Second World War, it ended up being the regiment that fought initially in North Africa, then crossed over to Sicily, Italy and up to sort of Austria and joining up, I guess, at the end of the war. And my great uncle, sadly no longer with us, in World War II, he fought in the same regiment. So I think that gives me an angle for a story to tell, because it combines two family people, family ancestors, or just ancestors, and the regiment combining the two. So more work to do on the research, but it may be delayed because I need to wait until 2027 until I can get the official war data and files relating to my great uncle. There's a restriction on availability of that file, so it will come. I may do the two stories separately and then join them up somehow, but it's all about that kind of future plan for what I'm going to do, what I'm going to share. So that was interesting, just finding that connection. Excuse me. So thank you, Lee Mack, for kind of putting me onto that story. The Battle of the Somme being one of the bloodiest and most horrendous battles of World War One, of which there were many. One of the other things, a bit of an update, I suppose, is I'm working on the story of Windy Ridge, linked with the main story of Forestdale, and I'm very close to that. That's going to be filmed hopefully in the new year, early in the new year. Again, I've requested a couple of pieces of information online that will come through, and then I can add that to what I've already kind of scripted, and then get it out there. So that'll be good fun, as well as the Christmas prep. The other thing is, depending on your device, Apple Intelligence is here. So it's AI, but Apple, rather than artificial, called it Apple. Now, it's quite early days in terms of what this can do. We got an update to the various Apple software platforms, both on phones and computers recently. I did play around with it where I wanted to send an email to somebody, and it gives you the option of rewriting it in sort of friendly or professional or business terms. And I chose friendly, and I got a really nice reply back, so maybe it works. I don't know at this stage yet how it might help what I do. It can't just go off and randomly film things. But it might help even just with some of the prep and some of the specking out presentation of my notes that I then take when I go out in the field and film. So yeah, Apple Intelligence, we will see where that goes. I've lined up another talk. So end of February, that's going to be a talk at I can't remember the name of it, but it's a Sanderstead group for the elderly at All Saints Church Hall. So that'll be on the Gardner family and Hamsey Green Airfield, which goes down very well. And later this week, I'm planning on doing a planning session. So going for a bite to eat with my good friend Graham. And I'm pretty certain, with Carol being on the call, I'm pretty certain, Carol, that Old Caulston, please correct me if I'm wrong, will feature. But I also want to do some other bits and pieces in the Caulston area. I haven't really thrashed those out and researched them yet. Need to do a bit more in Kenley. We've got Bletchingley on the list. Croydon Theatres is in the background somewhere. Possibly the River Wandle somewhere. And some of these things are in different stages of research, but not really ready to go yet. And pretty much every time I do a video, I think, should these be shorter and maybe not cover as much and just do more kind of pointing out? And I guess, well done. I'm glad that landed well, Carol. And I don't know. I mean, it's almost you tell me, and please feel free to chat away. There's a level of story that I always like to tell with these, and they end up ranging between 20 and 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more sometimes. And I often think, is that too much? Should it be less? It's very hard to actually say what the optimal length of a video should be, but I do my best to pack in as much as I can from what I'm showing you on a walk and the content that related to what went before. So again, you'll have to kind of confirm or deny that one to me. But I think, even this local one, I mean, I could have done the story of Windy Ridge in 5 minutes, really, just saying it used to be there, it's now Forestdale. Thank you, good night. But I don't think that would land very well. So I decided to say, well, what's the context of that house? Well, it was in what became before Forestdale. And I always ask questions that I think a viewer may ask, which is, well, what was before Forestdale? I said, well, it was fields, but then it was a golf course. And with research, I mean, I looked up, one of the older maps said Addington Court Golf Club, just around the corner from here. Very popular when people are first starting to play golf. They kind of just take a trek out to Addington and have a game. And on their website, it says formed in 1932. Now, when I did some digging and I saw it on a map from 1912, I thought, okay, 20 years beforehand. And then I did some looking up in the newspaper archive, and it had about exhibition matches in 1909. So that's when it was open, but apparently it's something like almost reformed in I don't know if I said 20, reformed in 1932. But it was the first private club to accept public paying a green fee to play the game of golf. I mean, often with these organisations, they like to hold on to the fact that they've got that longevity. They've been around for that sort of period of time. But who knows? I'm going to tell both stories because, again, saw it on a map, piqued my interest, and that's the story I want to tell. So, yeah, I mean, so down to you guys. I mean, Carol, is there anything anything that I mustn't miss when I'm covering Old Coulsdon? Because it's an area that I know bits and pieces of. I think Graham knows it quite well, so we will be discussing that. Hewitt's the greengrocers that was in Caterham Valley. I'll be doing a video on that as well because I've got lots of material. I mean, that's another thing. I personally don't like to just point a camera and say there used to be this here, there used to be that there. If I can show something, which is why I use a lot of maps, it helps to tell the story. So Old Coulsdon. Coulsdon, it's not New Coulsdon, is it? But Coulsdon on the Brighton Road. So that's also to be covered. I've not done bits in Purley. I've not done the Gardener's Pleasure Resort part of Kenley. And there's a few stories down there, so the bottom of Riddlesdown. And I did wonder about doing a country walk there. Walking from maybe Kenley up towards Riddlesdown and Sanderstead and back that way. That's an option. Sanderstead Plantation's got a couple of stories, but I can link that to another one. As I say, the Sanderstead stuff is very rich. There's things that I didn't realise that went on there historically that I'm delighted to tell a story of. Bradmore Pond, the Fox, Tudor Rose, Purley High School for Girls. Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Carol. I will make sure I cover those. Fox, I see that cropping up from time to time when the Bourne Society publish their stories. Oh, on the Grange. Yeah, indeed. So where would Coulsdon Manor fit in with that? Which was, what was the name of the estate? It will come to me. But yeah, so Coulsdon Court, Golf Course, Coulsdon Manor. So that's which the house itself is still used by the golf club, which is nice. So Coulsdon is something to pick up. And just for anyone earlier on, I talked briefly about, and with Julie's recommendations, Black Doves and the Day of the Jackal. Really good TV series. So if you've got access to the various platforms, Netflix being one, Sky Atlantic being the other, well worth a watch. Oh, the other thing I'm considering doing, if all the things line up, did you know Michael Caine's brother was in Cane Hill Hospital? No. That's not a... No. I'm just thinking of Cane and Cane. I did not know that. Yes, so there was an air crash in 1924, Pampisford Road, and there's like a plaque. I think I featured it in a video once, on the side of the road. And I'm going to plan to get along there on Christmas Eve because that will be exactly 100 years from the date it happened. So Graham and I are looking to pop along there. That might only be a short video, but just something to show some marks and respect for those that lost their lives in that crash. I'm still planning... Stanley, okay. Caterham Barracks. So, Carol, I covered that in the Caterham on the Hill walk and talk that I did a year or so ago, summer 23. That that walk was put together by the East Surrey Museum. They did one of these history or heritage trails. So I basically took their mapped out walk and followed it, and it ended up in Caterham Barracks. Yeah, there's some wonderful archive footage that shows parts of Caterham Barracks on Pathé News and the like, Beaumont maybe. So you can sometimes have a look in those and you'll see the little videos. Marvellous to see. Yeah, so that's good. Also, recently, I don't know why, there's been a spate of recommendations for... No, that's the wrong word. References where parts of our area are featured in films. So The Loneliness of a Long Distance Runner featured Whiteleaf Quarry and Riddlesdown. There was a Dirk Bogarde film, slightly dark film, I guess, and the name escapes me. And that shows some of the houses that were in Park Hill in South Croydon. That would have been in the late 60s, mid to late 60s, so before they were demolished for Park Hill Estate. And a lot of people knew about, as I featured in one of my videos, Reach for the Sky, Kenneth Moore as Douglas Bader playing cricket in the Dobbin at Whiteleaf. Where else was the other one? There are some others dotted around, so Sons of Grenadier Guards will find that interesting. Yeah. There's one particular film, Carol, and it's got... Some of the films don't always have sound or commentary, but this one, it's beautifully coloured, and it's got a young lad from Liverpool that won a prize to spend a day with the Guards, and it's at Caterham Barracks. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but we actually did a talk about it at the Bourne Society the other week. So yeah, if you have a look at that, it's basically Pathé News, and then you can do a search literally for Caterham, so you will find that. But I mean, it is good that despite the fact that the parade ground is now Tesco's car park, a lot of the buildings do remain, obviously housing, and still got the boundary, the cricket area, the church that was. So yeah, it's great. Oh yeah, that's really good. So so there is some, our area does feature quite a lot in these places. Actually, when I was at the Metropolitan Police Archive in Sidcup a few weeks back, they have these order books that are quite basic notes of where they need to be, patrol, or they're going to send X number of, mounted police or whatever it might be to whatever area. And the Croydon steeplechase featured quite strongly in the sort of mid to late 1800s, which was quite an event, well known for lots of crime and pickpocketing and drunken fights and all the like. There was a lot of joy when the Croydon races organisers lost their licence. I've done a video about it, so if you have a look on my channel, you will find it, and hopefully they're organised and easy to find. But if you just look up Croydon's horse racing history, it actually Croydon featured horse racing in about 3 or 4 different locations in the town. So, God, my voice is going husky. So yes, the other thing which I thought I want to do, because I'm kind of missing them, is some of the country walks. I mean, I suppose in some ways there's bits of the country walks featuring in some of the other videos that I'm doing. The Godstone one involved a little bit of country walking to a degree, but I know that last year when I was doing these as part of my one a month, it was I was seeing some slipping and sliding and all sorts of experiences. But yeah, I'm going to try and get a couple of more of those factored in. There was mention on this call last month about that. We've got some very good footpath networks, and the Surrey website covers footpath and bridleway routing really well. The Croydon one is a bit odd because they've got a series of old maps, and I mean old. I mean, if you look at some of the references of buildings on there that are long gone, And then they have some text updates, like Word documents basically, that give you a description of where the paths are. And they do seem to update those Word descriptions. But it would be so much easier if they had an interactive map like Surrey have. But I'd be talking to might as well talk to the wall, because Croydon won't have any budget for that. They probably have some budget for someone to do some research and update a Word document. But maybe an interactive map is a step too far. So cool. So what other plans have you guys got over the Christmas period? Is anyone getting away from it all and jetting away to the sun, or travelling away to see friends and family? What sort of form does your Christmas break take? As I tidy up my notes here. You're all gone shy on me. Or there's a delay. I think there is a bit of a delay actually. So yes, collaborations will feature in some way, shape or form. 2025. I'm never sure as to whether the family history has the same audience putting it online. So I'll have to think about this not just being a kind of, almost use the term vanity video where I'm just sort of talking about my lot. So it will be framed in the context of the campaigns, the wars that were fought. And the records aren't always in a battle like a battle that the like of which took place in First World War, would not always be able to put the detail down of what happened to individuals in that way. So we got seeing the sun would be nice, but sadly not. Yeah, I know what you mean, Julie. It's just like that. Although today wasn't too bad. We had some sunshine today, but it's nothing like getting to see the sun. Daughter in Edenbridge, son in Dorset, and you're off to Chichester. That's the way to do it. Yeah, I mean, we've got my daughter coming over Christmas Day. We're going to visit Sue's sister down in Caterham and her family Boxing Day. Then we haven't got too much arranged other than we've just arranged today, just after Christmas, after the New Year actually, a visit to see a family member that I didn't know existed until about 3 years ago, when I found out some detail about my father in the family tree. He never knew his dad was not who he thought it was, and through DNA we found it and then followed it up. So got a new kind of I suppose an auntie, half auntie, great auntie, step auntie that we're going to see, and that will be fantastic. Really looking forward to that. That's down in the West Country, so we're going there on the 2nd, and then we'll probably just do an overnighter and then come back. So really looking forward to that actually. And then I'm doing some other meetups with a couple of people that I used to work with, one person that I used to work with, and someone else in the new year. So we're talking about similar things actually, genealogy things, and I know I've mentioned this before, but once you get into the whole kind of family tree thing, and you kind of do need ancestry and the like, and it does involve a subscription, but once you get your head around it, it really is quite something. You go on quite a journey, and it's incredible some of the detail they have available, but you do have to be prepared to plough through a lot of search results. And actually, one of the things, if you're sitting around with your family, perhaps older members of the family over the Christmas period, have a chat with them. Have a chat with them about their younger life, and there might be some stories that might help any research that you'd be looking to do on that side. So it's good fun. So, well, it's a quieter one today. It's quieter, which is fine. I'm always happy to interact with you. So we haven't done the photographs, been away for 2 weeks, meet up after Christmas for coffee. Absolutely, Jeff. Absolutely. Looking forward to it. But yeah, so did a family tree. It's such a roller coaster. Carol, did you add in the DNA bit as well? So I know Ancestry can do it. They probably all can. But with our ones, we'd done some general family tree stuff, and then we did the DNA tests. And when you plug that in, it does all sorts of fancy analysis to join the dots. Go back to the 18th century. Wow. I think it's always best if there's really unusual names. I mean, that's quite obvious, but I've been doing some searches on John Reeves as part of my family tree. And John Reeves the father, John Reeves the son, John Reeves the grandson, London. Very difficult, unless you've got accompanying information to prove it's one over the other. It can be quite a trawl. Yeah, worth considering, Carol, actually, the DNA, because it was purely the DNA that revealed this truth in my family tree. Without that, we would have carried on regardless. In fact, we already had done. In fact, when my dad was alive, he'd done research into his family tree based on everything he knew at the time, doing some documentation reviews and going off to see some parish records. But there was that key bit, the science, that meant it was really actually off in a different direction. And sadly, you never knew that. But because I like to deal in the facts, probably facts more than emotion, maybe. But I like to know the facts, and then we can tell the story with some form of confidence. So, yeah, order certificates to back it up. On the certificate side, Carol, there's different, certainly on birth certificates, the General Register Office site, you just kind of register there for free. When I went on there recently for a birth certificate, they gave me a £3 option, which was a photograph of the entry. I think I mentioned this before. And then there was an £8 option, which was a PDF of what the record contained. And then there was something like a £12 or £13 entry, which was a copy of the certificate. And it kind of said that you'd only need the expensive one if you needed to actually prove something formally or legally. And I went for the £3 one, saying, well, just give me I just want to photograph a JPEG image of the entry in the register, please. And they gave it to me and it was wrong. So I went back to them a couple of weeks later and they said, well, if you pay the £8, we can give you the next level up. So they refunded the 3, I paid the 8. And actually what they gave me was the more expensive option, which was an actual copy of the certificate. Brilliant. Thank you. Maybe they recognised the problems or the errors that they caused. So that enabled me to tell a better story and a better understanding for the Windy Ridge and Forestdale story, because I'm not just going to tell the story about fields, houses, newer houses. It's going to be the families that live there and some of the stories that they had. Try and give it a bit more colour. So, but yeah, the certificates are important. The electoral rolls are good as well. I mean, a lot of the electoral rolls are on Ancestry and other sources as well. I developed, I suppose, a little bit of a model where I was tracing the history of a house. So, but I knew that the house had been pulled down and a new house developed. But I was able to trace that certain neighbours from this particular house stayed in the area throughout that period. So I was able to do some kind of matching to find out that I was on the right track all the way through. It was a lot of work. Any news on the Alders building in Croydon? Some activity last time. Anthony, I've not been there to see it, but I have seen probably the similar information that others have on some of the Croydon Facebook sites. Unfortunately, sometimes there's a bit of a kind of clickbaity headline that draws you in a bit. I believe that the whole building is protected and listed. The long lost relative, yeah. Well, that's that. Sorry, just on the order. So no, I don't at this stage. I'm just staying close to that Alders story to find out what's going on. I might speak to one of my people in the Croydon Natural History and Scientific Society, because they may be a bit closer to it. So that'd be interesting. I can't believe they would even consider getting rid of those buildings. Well, yes, long lost relative. Well, Julie, that was the situation where who my dad thought was his dad wasn't. We found out it was a man called John Reeves. And when we saw photos after hooking up with the family of John Reeves, it was absolutely no doubt that there was a family resemblance to both me and my dad. And apparently there are more photos. So we had a chat today with my cousin. So we're going down to see them in the new year, and more photos will be available. And it'd be just great to talk to another family member that I didn't know about. So I guess I thought what I might do there is a bit of a sort of video diary of the trip. And again, I don't know where it'll go, but if I just occasionally hold the phone up to me mug and say a few words, that should be good. We should have one evening of you trying to play that guitar behind you. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 3 guitars behind me, actually. But one day that might happen. Sometimes I think I'm really busy with stuff, so why don't I do some more? Which is why I acquired recently a flight simulator joystick thing. You know, Amazon do these things where they do a kind of, it's like a return, a resale or something they call it. I thought, yeah, I want it, but I may not use it all the time. And there was one for a resale price, so it's discounted. Packaging was awful, but it seems to work. So, I need to do some more. I need to fly some more planes. And this might sound a bit weird, right? Bear with me. But I thought if I can get to grips with the flying of an aeroplane on Google Chrome, because you run it in the browser, and I've done a bit of reasonable takeoffs and landings, but if I can get to grips with that, I can really appreciate much more when I'm telling stories about people who flew from the local airfields in the Battle of Britain and the like, the Gardner family and their stories of flight racing, aircraft racing and the like. So and then the guitar thing is that, I did play semi-professionally for about 4 or 5 years in the 80s, playing clubs and stuff like that, and vocals and lead guitar. And I've never got rid of the gear, and it all still works, funnily enough. But again, I haven't had the time to actually put it together. Flight Simulator 2004. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of this software is for Windows, and I only have a Mac. So when we went to Croydon Airport's one of their open days, they have a flight simulator there, and I crashed a Spitfire into a field. But the girl there said, well, if you want to practice, then use this software. So that's the plan. Cool. So yes, so I probably won't play the guitar for you one day, but I might do some more practice at least. I've got a lot of friends, musician friends, so I think to get together and have a little jam session should be fairly straightforward. But any rumours of putting the band back together will be strongly denied. Oh dear, that would be way too much. Although if it does take off, I'll start another YouTube channel. If I won't clog this one up. I still need to get. We went to Japan in May 2023. I've still got all the footage. I did do a couple of videos that I wasn't really happy with, so I pulled them. Then I decided to create a travel channel, and I think the channel exists, but there's no videos on it. And I thought about taking the travel videos from this channel down, remastering them, new editing techniques, that kind of stuff, and putting them back in the new channel, because I believe that you don't kind of lose out any stats that I've already got, any analytics for a video kind of is frozen in time. But if I did it that way, I could kind of, some of those videos are quite popular. In fact, the one that we did, the road trip in California, is 30,000+ views or something. So please don't to the music. I'll put it in a private channel, I think. Keep it well out of the way from everyone. But yes, so maybe just do that, because I think one of the things that they say is to try and stay on point with YouTube, so that if people land on your channel, they know what you're going to get straight down the middle. It's a channel about this, so expect to see this. And if you suddenly throw in a video on picking beetroot in Suffolk or something, it might turn people off somewhat. So there's a kind of hopefully an anticipation for what might come next. This is the other thing, isn't it? People have massive channels on social media. Is it Twitch? One of the other platforms, Twitch TV, where they have basically their gaming, and people like a stream like we have now, but they're sharing their screen playing a game, and huge money earners. That won't happen here. I can guarantee it. No gaming here, because I currently just crashing airplanes. So so guitar, right? I'm just trying to think. I'm just trying to recap anything else happened this year that to call out. I will say thank you very much for the support that you give me for the channel, for the growth, for the content. YouTube often tells me they do these sort of analysis messages, and they just say, "Oh, can you guess what your most watched video was in the last week? And how many of your viewers watch videos with captions?" They occasionally tell me that most of my viewers watch content that's 6 months plus old. So they don't come on this channel to watch the latest thing. They come on here to watch the oldest thing, to watch old stuff about old stories. So I think in some ways that's a good thing. I suppose there's less pressure. And I'm actually probably something came up in Marq's live that I was on yesterday about watching back some of the old videos, and I was thinking actually some of the stuff that I did in Hamza Green, Wallingham and Sanderstead in 2021 and into 22, there's probably been some changes already. Some businesses would have gone. Certainly the field as you come out of Cruise Lane in Wallingham, the John Fisher field or part of it, where they always seem to sell Christmas trees in the first property there. We passed that today, and there's a huge housing development, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 bed houses. And they're doing some landscaping and sort of screening. I mean, they look like they might be reasonable houses, but I just wish they'd exhaust the brownfield sites first. But it got through, sadly. We shall see where that goes. So, so anything you want to ask me? Anything you want to suggest? Any jokes you want to share? Christmas cracker jokes? And as I wind down the session, I'll have another slurp as I let you think and type. It always comes around so quick, doesn't it, this time of year? I think we've got all our food sorted out. Presents to be kind of sorted, delivered. And before we know it, it'll be January, February, March. Filming season, really. It's harder to pick good days at this time of year, this season. The advantage about me filming the Forestdale one is it's literally at the end of the road. Where is the most interesting place you've walked, in your opinion, obviously? That's a great question. That is a great question. The one that stands out is probably one of my most recent, and that's Godstone. Because my general experience of Godstone had been going through it. And generally they want you to bypass it if you're going on the A22 route. And I just did not realise how much there was to it in terms of natural resources. There's a lot of kind of water expanses. There's old kind of sand pits, gravel pits, that kind of area. There was a gunpowder industry there. There's a brilliant set of pathways, but actually around the green and the triangle itself, when you get up close, as I as I tried to do in the video that I did recently, and you see some stunning properties, really. No two the same, apart from that terrace at the top of the green. But just an amazing mix of lovely old property. And I suppose the lovely thing would be to see inside some of those. I can't really go door knocking. And it's something that I think was such a pleasant surprise. I'm a little bit annoyed at myself for not really digging deeper and making a huge assumption that it was like it was. And then you've got Churchtown separate. So when you go past the pond, Bay Pond, you've got this other bit where the church is, with another set of absolutely stunningly beautiful, picturesque properties. And of course, all the walks around there are fairly easy, then not too many hills and the like. So that was interesting. But I think, Carol, one of the other things that I've found is the huge benefit of just getting out on foot. So sussing out where some of these paths are and realising just how easy it is to get from village to village in the area and have a quite stunning walk to achieve it. We just jump in the car now, don't we? Or maybe hop on a bus, train, whatever. And I think it gave me a much bigger appreciation of the richness of this area. And even then, doing some of the walks over Botley, where you've got, Bronze Age enclosures, Iron Age enclosures. You've got the sort of anti-aircraft position that was for a short period of time. But you do, yes, you're right, Carol, you do learn a lot by walking about. And in Croydon, you learn a lot by looking up at the buildings. The shops come and go, but the structures they sit in have been around for a long, long time and are very rich. Even down sort of Church Street, you probably get an idea of what and how beautiful Old Town was back in the day. Sorry, got disturbed then. Helicopter trying to land at Eastbourne Hospital, which must be near where you are, Jeff, I assume, or that's very random if not. We saw a helicopter circling the Wallingham area today when we were out. I never quite knew what that was. It looked like it might have been an air ambulance. So, yeah. So I think only by... I guess anyone can go off and make a conscious decision to do a walk. I do that, but I tend to take a camera and microphone with me. But just a respect for the area. And I think a lot of people found that during lockdown when they were just exploring the areas that they would normally never see, say, during the week because you just commute. But when you're kind of maybe furloughed or working at home and you can just go off and maybe take a walk around the perimeter track and understand a bit more about Kenley, for example. So, yeah. Oh, half a mile from the hospital. Right, okay. Yeah, nice part of the world down there, Jeff. Nice trip down. So, yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's time to wrap up proceedings and to once again wish you all a Merry Christmas in the chat and a Happy New Year, and stay safe, have fun, talk family trees if you get the chance. At any time, if you're stuck on a bit of research or an angle or something, I'm happy to help. The next one, it'll be in January, Jeff, not sure exactly when. I'll be honest, when I do these, I tend to think if there's no big sporting events or big football matches that maybe I'll go to or whatever, Mondays are not too bad, generally fairly quiet for these things. So, Christmas Eve video, thank you. And Merry Christmas to you all. So January sometime, and stay tuned. The kind of community tab thing that's in YouTube, YouTube keeps saying they want to do more with that, and they're trialling it in US and Canada and New Zealand, not UK yet. So there might be some other ways. So yeah, Merry Christmas, Philip. Merry Christmas, Carol. Merry Christmas, Free Surfer. Yeah, I'll sort that Christmas Eve video. I'm planning to get down there. The only thing that would absolutely stop it is if it was complete and utter torrential rain, but I'd probably still then find a way of sneaking out. And Palace did very well the other day, yesterday. It was brilliant. Yeah, cool. Merry Christmas, one and all. And that's the end of the podcast for people listening. And wishing you all a happy Christmas and a happy New Year. And we'll see you again in 2025, if not before.